Right, are we live now? Right, sorry about this, audience. We've had some major technical difficulties at this end. You would not believe what we've had to put up with. And this might not actually work. So, let me just check the super chat right now. There we go, live dashboard. Yo, anybody about? Type in that little chat window and tell me, can you hear me? So, we'll just presume that you can at this point. What we're going to do is, click that Discord link, join in. The audio settings were working last week, but they might not be the same this time round. You can at least maybe hear me. You should be able to hear the intro tune, which will be happening any second. Here we go. Right, you've got 2 minutes, audience. Type in if you can't hear the music or you can't hear me. Let me know. And then we'll get this soiree rolling. We normally do live streams every Friday. We have... The audience can join in. They can talk. I can play music. I have been buggered by a simple update. So sorry if David Mendez himself is watching. Apologise about these blasé technical difficulties. Right, so here we go. Here's a tune. You've got 2 minutes and then join in with us. Here we go. Right, so that's registering. Yes, audience, it is me, your humble citizen journalist, Rick Turpin, here for another, well, we're going to see how long it goes for. The idea is I have got 10 minutes of footage I'm going to play to you. The first bit that's probably relevant to all you new people watching is the Sadiq Khan Peppa Pig balloon fiasco. Yes, your humble citizen journalist was stood there on Trafalgar Square looking down on the melee. And, well, we'll show you the video and we'll let it speak for itself. So what we're going to do... Here we go, audience. You should be able to see this, hopefully very soon. There we go. So let's get that full screened as best we can. There we go. Right, audience. I presume you can see this. I'd like a bit of feedback in the chat if anyone's watching. Can you see the image that we're seeing now? Because if not, it's pretty pointless, and I just suggest you watch the video. That's the second upload on the channel. So what we'll do is we'll just escape the screen grab. See if anybody actually fucking responded back to that. Let's have a look. No, right. Well, what we'll do is we'll run with that and we'll presume it works. Let me just check full screen. Well, hang on, before we do. Let's hover over OBS. Yeah. So it will do. Right, here we go. Full screen, guys. Full screen. No, we'll leave it unmuted because I'll comment on this. We won't have the music playing for itself. So here we go, audience. Strap yourself in. As you can see in the middle there on the image, that is a picture of Sadiq Khan put upon Peppa Pig. Which is a British cartoon character that all the kids enjoy. Now, what happened is this woman's flying it, and if you look around her just from this still, there's just a few cops already. Now, I'd heard later on in the day that someone in the crowd had reported it as offensive. because this is how it works in Britain. It's the police won't get involved really unless it's obvious. But if it's something that's the grey area, you can report that offends you. So anyway, we'll let the footage play, but this is the whole preamble to this. This is why the cops are stood round. As someone out there, some heinous person, had said that offended them. So here we go. Let's just see what happens. So as you can see, yes, this where I'm positioned now, looking down on the crowd. This was Trafalgar Square next to the Lions. And if you look, yeah, everyone. I mean, there is actually music to this. It's Rule Britannia playing. Actually, we'll unmute it. Actually, yeah. That gives you a flavour of what's going on. So the idea is we're looking down on all this, and all of a sudden the crowd notices she's getting done for this. So if you notice, like, what already starts out just a few guys becomes, like, probably what I'd say several hundred at this point. Note the flags as well. It's quite a... From all over the Western European world, more or less, and countries where it came from, like the Australian flag, and there in the background's Wales and things. So what we're doing now is we're all stood looking down on it, and the crowd next to me is all shouting, like, scum, scum. The fact that, like, the police are really giving this their time of day. It's kind of pathetic, really. If you notice, for instance, how many coppers have we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 coppers, all for a Peppa Pig balloon. So at which point, as you can see, everyone's got a camera out on that day. And one gentleman's there who's got some Stella Artois on his person. Yeah, and there we go, we're looking around seeing who else is recording. So as you see, look, the crowd's getting even bigger now. We're not impressed with this. If you look at the person who's actually got the blimp, she's got your back to the audience, she's got a white shirt on. She doesn't get arrested, which is thankful in all this, but keep your eye on her, and keep your eye on that balloon. Oh, if you look there now, some high-energy Chad has released a smoke grenade or a smoke bomb. Now, your humble citizen journalist doesn't particularly like smoke that much, being asthmatic and having anaphylactic shock. So as you can see, yeah, he positions himself away from the smoke as best he can, while maintaining a view on the blimp. So as you can see, yeah, all the crowd's not... Get your back out of the way. Come on, there we go. Right, yeah, he's high-energy Chad. So we're all there watching this. Smoke grenades are going off. It's quite fun. At which point, the police are trying to, if you can see now, in all this smoke, because it's getting for them confusing. Someone's just released a smoke grenade. So they're now going to try and make an attempt to sort of separate the woman from the balloon. If we're going to watch in a moment. Yeah, as you can see, look, there's some guys in caps. They're saying to the guys, look, this is messed up, this. Because think, the Trump balloon were flying. I don't recall a load of police, because someone got offended, reporting it. No, because it could have offended me being a Christian. You know, being a person who supports democracy. I like Trump balloons flying, but, you know, oh, no, correction, I don't want a Trump balloon flying. Now, if you look there now, the audience, if you can see, someone has liberated the balloon from the police in all this. Oh, and if you look now, people are actually, there's one, I will say, 1 or 2 individuals threw empty beer cans at the police. And if you notice, there were a guy then with a cap waving his hand saying, don't do it, guys. They were calming us all down. So if you can see, the balloon has been separated from the woman, and the woman has actually got out of there in the scrum. The police at this point are more concerned for themselves. That's how they roll, the police. They will only do something, and here we go, there's more police, because they are bothered. Oh, and look, what else has turned up on the scene? So we've got 7 police officers plus another 7, and now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 police horses. All this because someone were offended by a Peppa Pig balloon. This is the insanity of this audience. Look at the money this is costing. Because if you know about British police, which I kind of do, they're not enlisting police officers anymore. They're literally having, like, you know, pay caps on the stuff. These are a tired police force. These are people who, you know, this sort of response is unreasonable at best. And you've got people who are kind of on the chin strap. So they're concerned for their own safety. The slightest thing. This is an underpaid bunch who, under the law, it says if you're worried, call reinforcements in. So notice how quick, like say, a Peppa Pig balloon. What did they honestly think the audience would have done seeing that? Do you honestly think that they would have gone, oh, it's okay, let the old Bill, the same people who arrested Tommy, take a woman for a Peppa Pig balloon? Not a chance. So obviously the crowd got really high energy at that point. I mean, no officers got hurt. 2 cans were thrown and a smoke grenade. At which point the coppers like, we fear for our life. They left the woman, because if you notice just prior, I actually shook her hand in that scene. I walked up the column and actually found she'd actually jumped up with us lot, probably because it was the safest part of the crowd. And as the police were walking past, according to Sky News and ITV News, someone slapped the back hind end of a horse. Which, at the end of the day, I mean, these are police horses. They're really well trained. They don't kick or anything. They have in their training, they're used to having people throw things at them just to get them used to the idea of being in a riot. And the worst the news could say is, oh, someone slapped a police horse's hind end. Yes, because they'd marched in 7 extra reinforcements and 7 police horses because of a Peppa Pig balloon that luckily was saved and liberated by various members of the crowd. And also, luckily, she got away scot-free as well, because I went and shook her hand. At this point, so we're all basically booing the police and saying, go on, go away, scum, you know. So everyone's got their England flags and the crowd's following the police. So at this point, it seemed a good opportunity. I say, we'll just pause the footage. We'll pause the footage. We'll continue it all in a minute. There's another 5 minutes of this. This is kind of now the walk down the Mall to the speech area. Some scenes of the day. And obviously the latest video in the compilation will show you. It's a bit long. It's 2 hours of speeches. If you're in for that kind of thing, by all means watch it. Obviously it got less views than this tape did. There is actually other people who got images of the day as well, but what is always important in citizen journalism, and never ever think, oh, is it worth not turning up? There were other people who got the same footage as me, but we got it from so many angles, and other footage didn't necessarily see the... So example, mine didn't have necessarily the original... Because we saw it happen, and then I went, oh, hit record, when the police were going, oh, what's this balloon about? But other people, all they saw was a guy slapping the hind end of a horse. You know what I mean? So from Sky News' perspective, oh God, what a bad day out. Look at these thugs and hooligans. They don't tell you that that was an unreasonable response because the police are afraid because, oh my God, they're not recruiting police anymore. We've got pay caps. Oh, wait a minute, they're restricting our holiday time because every week the left are out here protesting. Every week there's something going on in London around the UK, and the police, just for the Trump rally, had to call in officers from my town, and that's many miles away from London. Officers told on a weekend, can't go out with your family on a day out. You're in London because a lot of lefties are protesting against democracy. Give me an effing break. Sorry to be profanity then, but we just said that. So yeah, the day out in question, that was the initial of all the days out things that I saw with my own eyes. That was the only time the police overstepped the bounds. I was there on the first protest on the 9th, and if you noticed the 6K last time I looked, it's not very big video viewing-wise, it was the riot footage, again mixed with patriotic British music. You notice in that scenes, for instance, the police, every time they're out of control. I mean, I had experience of the day, I were asking a guy a question, I says, well, who's paying for all this littering from the left? The left had left all the placards everywhere. The policeman's like, you want to get out of here now before you have some trouble? And I'm like, whoa, these guys are literally etching for a fight. You know, to be a policeman in Britain, there's 1 or 2 people. You're either being bullied or you were a bully. One of the two, and it seems them kind of people end up being policemen. You know, not casting a net on everyone, but it just seems to be people who are always gunning for a fight, or when they're outnumbered, they call in, like, unreasonable proportion for, like, what, you know, righteous anger at a woman being inquisited by the thought police over a balloon, to then, and like you say, oh my God, these people are out of order. What? Because they're trying to take a balloon away from the police who are trying to snatch it. What, you know, use it as evidence. Again, the person who threw the smoke grenade, you noticed, I don't know whether you saw it in the previous sequence, but there were a woman walking around and a guy who were like, you know, the cross motion, don't do it, you know what I mean, cease and desist. Because this particular day on the 9th, I'm not saying it were out of control in some regards, but there were a bit of high energy from the Chads. And yet, on this protest, that was the only incident of people throwing beer at the police. And I only count that as 2 cans. If you compare the speech footage that we did outside 10 Downing Street on the 9th, every time the speaker goes, police, police, they throw fucking beer at the police, boom, you know what I mean? It was like a riot outside 10 Downing Street. And yet this time round, we was explicitly told, once we all walked down the Mall and got there, anybody who throws beer, the whole thing is off. And despite this one incident of maybe the beer being thrown in a smoke grenade because of police over response to a situation. When we get to the protest, there were nothing more civilised. It were, family event. I don't recall any high energy Chad behaviour. There were no... For a start, what they did is, and you might notice this from some of the pictures in a minute, they didn't actually let us go outside 10 Downing Street. Last time, we were outside the gates, so my position was perfect. They'd purposely moved the barricades this time and the stage so that you couldn't be outside 10 Downing Street. So already, and I noticed immediately, there was some high energy chads there, but there were no focus. There weren't that line of police and a corrupt government behind them, basically laughing at you, thinking, what are the plebs going to do? Yeah, enough that you had to call in 50 and other police who went through a walk of shame on the 9th, ended up standing there and having just the same level of abuse thrown at them. Because remember, again, the guy on stage, he says this during the speech footage, he says, look, guys, I don't agree with him on this, but he says, look, the police keep you safe at night. They're the ones you ring when you're in trouble. Yet also keep in focus that the same police, remember, Nuremberg, you're under no obligation to obey unjust orders. So if you, as a policeman, are told, arrest that person, why? Because we told you to do it. Well, I'd like to know why I'm arresting that person. Because I could be sending them to a death camp, a gulag, I could be doing anything with them. Or like with Tommy, he's been sent to a proverbial death sentence if he doesn't get out quick. Which I pray to your deity that he does. This is my big concern with all this. That, like I said, the police, the only ones who are left at the minute, are the frayed, the broken, who literally that's the only thing they can do to pay a mortgage. And it doesn't necessarily foster this thing of, the policeman's on my side. They're fearful of the population, or when they outnumber us, they beat us. And likewise, they're the ones, because they're the stormtroopers, like out of Star Wars, they're the ones who get the brunt of the abuse. Because they're the ones going out arresting people for thought crimes. They're the ones going round, Tommy's in breach of, contempt of court. What? He stood across the street. Anyway, before we go on, audience, because I'm actually a considerate horse, let's go back to the chat window. Yeah, let's see, we've got Franklin Romanowski, all good. Right, so the audio is coming through at both ends, I presume. Yeah, I'll presume it is. Yeah, let me just check the Discord window as well, see who else we've got in here. And I have to apologise to them profusely. No, it's just me. Right, normally, audience, you join in the Discord link and you can be part of the show today because Windows screwed me over for the umpteenth time this month, has updated my system and made it so all my audio settings were bad. That's why normally we have we literally go 1 minute after the battleground normally. This is why you've had to hold on for an extra 15 minutes while we troubleshoot problems. And even then, they're probably not correct completely. Right, here we go. Let's go back to a thing. So here we go, the protest footage. This is us all now walking down the Mall. Here we go. Yeah, full screen this. There we go. Right, this is us all walking down the Mall now. So this is actually the beginning of the protest. Like the march. If you look down there, that in the distance, that big building, that's, I think, part of the Houses of Commons, Westminster. So we're just going to be walking down that stretch towards where that forest begins, kind of. That's where our target area is. And again, the people on the media will report that it was a small protest. Not small, there were probably, minus a few thousand. Last time we filled the Mall all the way up to Trafalgar Square. This time, I do look back and record. I can't actually see the end of the crowd, to be honest with you. So let's say it ended at this road here. Well, maybe 1,000 people less turned up. It's still, fucking 15k? Got to have been, at least. So anyway, let's roll this. So here we go, audience. There we go. The footage should be rolling now. So as you can... this is that's reminded me now, American flags. What was interesting about this day, and then it became under special rules because of this, 2 protests were joining together. And what it was is the pro-welcome Trump crowd who were outside the American embassy, they were given permission... They can do it anyway, but it makes it a lot better if they got permission to join our protest, so it's like a joint one. Because really, it's a spillover, be honest with you. Both crowds do have a lot of in common. Example, when we were all at the protest doing the speeches, it's like 2 hours. They have loads of speakers on. We all get high energy. One of the things in it says, and now Donald Trump, and they had a telescreen with Donald Trump on it. And we were all like, yeah, we love you, Trump, and everything. So there's a lot of crossover, even just amongst the Tommy crowd. So as you can see now, yeah, the footage should be rolling. This is all us walking down. See, this actually will bring up a point later. Notice the amount of Union Jacks being flown and the flags of England. Now, this is what's strange about this. Looking at that, an American would think, that's great. If I just took that one flag and walked through certain areas, literally there were a case this week, and I'm tempted to pull this up if I can. A woman and 2 veterans were walking through a lefty area, and they had 6 police escorting them. Oh yeah, by the way, that's the Peppa Pig balloon in the images. And oh yeah, we got the dog as well. That were really patriotic dog as well. That were awesome. Very thirsty dog, I must say. But everyone were giving it water, and that were a really awesome blimp. That one, the rubber doll with Sadiq Khan's face on it on top of a pig. Yeah, that were great. So then then that image there we should be seeing now is a Donald Trump mask man who was giving out stickers saying "Free Tommy." And if you look at that image there, I mean that stretches back quite a way. That's quite a big crowd. So yeah, then we're just still images of the day, and if you that's a funny one, the base Messiah, that guy with the, you know, and here we go. This is the walk back then to Trafalgar Square, yeah, and then obviously everybody gathered there for the final send off. That was, we were told by the police, you have to break up by 6, or is it 6:30? Otherwise they'd be read. The riot act and escorted away. Everyone had broke up by that point. So yeah, we'll let the footage play out. So what we were saying, points in question. Yeah, so these people are flying patriotic attire. A woman this week was caught, well, told by the police, you're going to incite violence, so we have to have a police escort for just flying a lone Union Jack with 2 veterans. See, this is the thing coming out in numbers. People were chanting, Allah is a pedo, Allah is a pedo, you know, football chanting. That's a hate crime. No one got arrested for it because they're honestly going to go into a crowd, try and identify the person who said it, to then cause a mob to go, oh, it's a wrongful arrest. Nah. So it pays to be in numbers like this. Because look, there's people flying flags. That's a good scene. We're all sat there having beer in public, having a good smoke, flying flags. You want to thought audience, England lost bloody against Belgium, so we were the, what we're now 4th place in the World Cup, but yet we were still all happy. Yeah. There we go, pictures there, wasn't it the Scottish Defence League? Yeah, them are like the EDL Scottish counterpart. And if you look here now, so obviously there's people behind a police line, and yet they're sort of concerned about those on this monument. So there's probably more people behind them, but they're more concerned about the high-energy activists, we'll call them. Yeah, they're obviously, it's the end of the day, we're British, we like having a drink, and that one guy there's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 beers. Man. Envious. So yeah, that were kind of how the day panned out. Apart from one incident of police overreach, where the crowd responded, save the balloon, save the woman, the rest of the day were basically quite well behaved. I mean, the police had been told prior, we don't want scenes repeating of last time. So therefore they were probably told, like, no, unless someone's attacking you, don't respond. You know, let them get away with what... Because, be honest with you, I mean, unless the media's there to report it, it's like it never happened. Sky News went there. They got all they needed to get. The pictures of the guy slapping the police horse. So that's the big thing, you notice. All this, for instance, it got downplayed in the media. Oh, just a couple of 100 protesters. That previous scenes, them still images, there's loads of people there. That's more than a couple of 100. Yeah, admittedly, there's a couple of 100 high-energy, focused activists out there. No, we won't play that because that's the BBC. So there we go. We'll go back to our other chat window. Fucking where we at? There we go. Right, you should... Yeah, you should be able to see the chat window now. Ahoy, sir, says Joey Loney. Yeah, hello there, sir, as well. And Bennis case, someone called S. Calm reported it to the police. Yeah, they probably did, actually. I wouldn't be surprised. Yes, so audience, that is basically just my little bit of a commentary on a 10-minute video. So yeah, now this is where I kind of actually give the police credit on this. That particular day, it was quite funny. I'd bought a Trump pin that I'm wearing now, says support Trump on it. And because I'm autistic and I kind of forget to do things, I left my wallet on the wall after paying for the said pin. At which point, fucking, I went back to Trafalgar Square and got all that footage. I'd been gone like a good hour. And at which point, I thought, right, better check my train tickets. When am I going home? No wallet. I panicked. I was like, oh my God, where's my wallet? Ran back down to the protest zone. And I was thinking, it ain't going to happen. We're going to have no fucking wallets gone. It's London. Because I think I'm actually going to read you out now some crime stats of London and showing you how lucky I was. I left my wallet on the wall of 10 Downing Street. There were coppers still stood there. I went, you wouldn't have found a wallet perchance. They said, tell us your name. So I kind of doxed myself to the police. And they give me one wallet back. Thank you, London police, for actually doing your job for once. So I actually said to the coppers, I said, I know you got a lot of, bad rep. I said, but you did good on that one. Don't tell anyone I told you that. So, yeah, I was quite pleasantly surprised that in London's, murder, acid attack, rape capital, and obviously they steal anything off you that's not nailed down, your humble citizen journalist can leave his wallet on the wall of 10 Downing Street and get it returned by the said scum police. So, hats off to the Metropolitan Police on that one. Yeah, I mean, I'll just give you some stats now, actually, on how bad London is, just to give you a flavour of this. So, let me get me a little production notes up. Where are they now? Right, so here we go. Britain's been gripped by a crime wave. Homicides are up 12%. Robbery offences are up 30%. Rapes are up 31%. Knife crime, correction, it's actually whittling, is up 16%. But don't worry, because 9 people are arrested and taken off our streets for posting mean things on social media. Whew, I certainly feel a lot safer now. In all that, it doesn't actually have a statistic on autistic people, citizen journalists, leaving wallets on walls, but I think I've actually skewed the curve with that one. So yeah, that's sort of a breakdown of London, how bad it's getting. And they actually said in one statistic I was reading that 50% of Britain's crime happens in London. Now, in fairness, London has the same population size as Croatia, just to give you sort of a flavour of how fucking, big London is and how small Croatia is. And yet 50% of Britain's crime comes from there. So, yeah, that's the kind of, place where I left my wallet. Look, maybe because it were outside 10 Downing Street, maybe that's why, I got my wallet back. Yeah, let me just check something before we fucking continue. Yeah, we've been going about half an hour now. Yeah, the idea is, audience, I just wanted to... Because what it was is today, I weren't actually going to bother, to be honest with you. I weren't going to bother. I was going to have a day off with this. But then when Dave Menez said, what do you mean, the Sadiq Khan balloon? And I'm like, what? You've not heard of this? Because it were a big deal. I mean, it were all over social media in Britain and things like that. And I thought, how come he hasn't heard about it? And it kind of just in itself demonstrates... In fairness, it was the only time the police screwed up that day. Despite the heavy restrictions put on, that was the only time they screwed up. And I think they probably learned a lesson from that. Because knowing their response now, every time there's a big crowd, why not fly a Sadiq Khan Peppa Pig balloon? Just to see what response it gets. What can they do you for? Imagine that on your criminal record. Oh, God, you're a hate criminal. Yeah, because I had a balloon with the Mayor of London's face on it. Didn't they fly the blimp of an elected president? Yeah, they did, but that's okay. You can't call in an offensive... I could contact the police and say, I'm really offended. As a supporter of democracy, of freedom and everything we all do. I want to see... I support my president, the President of the United States. I don't like seeing him demeaned with a balloon. No, they'd have called you crazy or said, stop wasting police time. Yeah, the person who called the Peppa Pig, pigs, we call them pigs in Britain, police. The scum, sorry, wasn't it a police force? Yeah, that's what they're called. Yeah, they were able to be called in. That wasn't a waste of resources, supposedly. But, yeah, so audience, that's the kind of idea. That's the place where we went to, London. The concept is we're supposed to have protests every month. The next one's supposed to be on the 24th or 27th. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, the idea is we're supposed to... This is the difference between us and the left. We go out there once a month, completely focused, and know what our object of the exercise is, to free Tommy Robinson. So you've actually got quite a diverse crowd of people, but on a very, very core similar message. So, for example, I went to the first protest. There were loads of people. There were even, like, black people, Chinese people. There were a load of French people in the crowd. Are all these people fucking racist? Are they all football bigots? No, there were women and kids there. There were like old people there, veterans and things. And yet they'd love to paint this as, obviously my footage doesn't like paint a pretty picture on the thing, but I class this as high energy activism. This is less than what would happen on a football win. If England won, geez, I'm glad we didn't. There'd have been riots in streets and everything because England won. And literally these guys are being restrained. Notice they're having a drink, they're having a chat. No one's throwing beer at the police. There isn't repeat scenes of the 9th. What it was is the police read us, not read us, but they give us all information and said, you pre-Tommy crowd and the Trump rally are under like sort of restricted conditions. One of you implicates all of you. You know, one of you throws beer. You all get the protest shut down. So not one of us threw beer. And also the Unite Against Fascism crowd was told you're under similar restrictions. You know, no messing about, no violence. Apart from a scuffle. Now, again, I haven't got footage of this. There are other people who have. Of where it shows Antifa. And there's a few manlets, like fighting a few Chads. But I think what it was is, now don't quote me on this, it read the Chads moving into the back line of the UFA march, or it was some Antifa who were waiting at our muster point. Either way, it kind of got diffused and it weren't a big deal. But that's like the the extent of, like, you know, violence on the left, you know, between the left and the right, you know, like some street battle. The worst it got is a few Antifa were stood there and right-wing guys just sort of put them in the place. There weren't... Put it this way, it's amazing, considering London's supposed to be like the hotbed of like leftism, and it's supposed to be like such a multicultural place. They can't muster the numbers to defeat us. We're literally in the, was it now, 20,000, 15,000 regularly who turn up to a protest. These people can't even muster more than like 1,000 to us. So it just sort of gives you an idea of how, like, you know, how touched the media and the left are. The fact that they're like, oh God, we have to do more than like and share on Facebook. We have to turn up in numbers. You turned up the most you could and you still left. We all went out afterwards looking like, I think they secured Big Ben. We had like Downing Street and Trafalgar Square. I mean, as well, remember the police were kind of keeping both sides away. But on that particular day, now this is the last point I'll mention before we kind of wrap this all up. Sargon of Akkad, I were calling him a complete cock, saying, oh, look, he isn't going to London. And yet it turned out he did. He went there, and he actually were quite brave. He went into the rear guard of the Unite Against Fascism crowd and asked them questions. Now, what were weird about all this is, again, they said to Sargon on his tape, oh, you're going to cause disturbance just by being here. Now, again, he's just being a citizen journalist. He's not under the same restrictions of a protest. Yet they called offence to it. And you'll notice in his particular footage, I'd suggest you watch his channel for this one, because I don't want to play it and get a copyright strike on mine because of the bloody rules of YouTube. If you notice in the video, there's a guy stood next to the police officers. And on his little name badge, it says Stand Up to Racism. Now, that isn't Unite Against Fascism, it's Stand Up to Racism. The difference is, if you're a member of Unite Against Fascism, you're under police restrictions in the counter-protest. Stand Up to Racism wasn't. They were given free rein to run roughshod over everyone. And that were kind of what happened with Sargon. They were like a commissar stood next to the police, telling the police this guy's causing offence. Under the police regulations, because this was what was on last week's live stream, we were looking through what the actual regulations were. And it says, do anything wrong, we arrest you. Yet they were kind of given carte blanche by the Met to run amok. And it was actually surprising, considering they were given that level of, like, you know, carte blanche to do what you want. Very few people took them up on that. Maybe that's quite the white pilling thing in all this, the kind of saving grace to this. The fact that even the police and the left, when working in coots, can't even get the numbers together to deal with us. The fact that there were a group given the ability to walk around and cause violence, they never did. We were all sat in pubs. I think there were one pub where some lefties went and like had a go, like, no, there's a load of racists in that pub. Yeah, one pub, but there were loads of pubs in London. Apart from one focused event that were caught on Russia Today. Curious if that were a setup in itself. Whether or not it were, whether or not that were a stage thing, because I noticed one of the guys in the pub did a right-hand salute back. And I noticed all day no one did anything like that. Yet on the incident of where RT are watching it, there's a load of thug communists and a guy in the bar doing a right-hand salute. I actually suggest fake news on this, because we were at a load of pubs, no one were doing that shit, and there weren't loads of lefties outside. So I think it was just purely a media op. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll kind of, I think we'll wrap this up, unless there's anyone in the chat wants to discuss more on this shit. Again, I apologise. Oh, we're actually getting some audio through. Say it again. I'm just testing my audio while we're doing it. Go on.
I was just making sure I was clear. The the thing about the left in general, if you look at any of these protests, they sort of use mentally ill and drug addicts as their foot soldiers. And the problem with that, from their strategic point of view, is at any sign of like difficulty, if they can't just show up, the police cordon them off, give them carte blanche to do whatever they want, they'll leave. They can't sustain any kind of force because they're just the kind of people that can't hold a job, can't conform to gender setup, can't not put heroin in their arm. So yeah, they're violent, but any sort of resistance and they kind of fold pretty easily. You're not going to get large numbers of them, and the numbers of like ideological leftists that will actually fight like these drug addict foot soldiers are very small, and you should never underestimate them. But yeah, they're not. That's the problem. If you do some kind of sustained effort, they're not going to be able to compete.
I mean, this is the thing. It's every day they're out there. I mean, there's something that came up in British media, actually. I should have got the notes for this one. They were saying how the feminists and the transgender now in England are openly... Like, there were a case last week of a feminist professor getting punched in the face by a tranny. Basically, a bloke in a dress. And then the way it's been painted is all that the trannies have got, like, more say than you have on the pecking order of hierarchy of oppression. And you've got literal feminists who are saying, well, wait a minute, we want women's rights. We're concerned that our women-only safe spaces, like bathrooms, are going to be... Because they're changing the law in Britain to whereby it's whatever you identify as. Because in Britain, if you look at the stats, there's only 4,000 trannies. There's only 4,000 people...
They call transgenderism that... Well, no. Rather, they call feminism that doesn't include trans women TERFs. Trans exclusionary feminism. And, you probably should bring up the song next episode and have that be the outro tune. But, that's a big thing where they have to, basically you're a fascist Nazi if you're like a feminist that doesn't consider trans women to be legitimate. That's the new thing that they're purging from their coalition there.
I mean, it reminds me very much of like these breaks, these fracture lines. Because like I made the point, we all go as quite a diverse crowd on a common message. They've like a diverse crowd with a million different messages. So example, it's like the gays and then the Sharia law people. You've literally got people saying, oh, it's okay being, you can't be Islamophobic if you're gay. It's like, well, if you're gay, you really don't like Muslims. The chances are that they want to fucking throw you off a building. And again, we found this in Manchester. We had gays for, well, basically gays for reason and gays for Sharia. It were crazy. There were gays there saying Muslims are fine, they don't want to kill me. And then you had like Tommy Robinson actually, and them lot turned up to it. It were gays against Sharia law and stuff. Because in Britain the concept is well, hang on, gay rights. If you're a white man and a gay, that kind of prioritises really over a foreigner bringing his 6th century barbarism to this island. You know what I mean? So just from the logic of it, it's like, well, the gays and the Muslims are not compatible. And likewise, feminism and trannies are not compatible. The left is just breaking up as we see it.
But they are. Like, they are compatible because they have a common enemy. And that common enemy is the society. And it's funny, when you're around these people, they have like this, at least in America, I can only speak from that point of view, but I'm sure it's the same, where like, they're rebelling against like this 1950s caricature of like, society as if that is still a legitimate thing. Like they think they're edgy and they have this common enemy. So Muslims have this common enemy because Trump doesn't like it, right? And the 1950s RG bunker, right? The sort of middle America or the working class there in Britain oppose these things, right? They don't like them, they don't embrace them. So it's kind of like a rebellion against that. They have a common enemy of the working class in Britain and probably the middle class ruralites in the America.
I mean, be honest with you though. I mean, if we kind of like boil it down to it though. I mean, there's no like moral equivalence almost, because people go the left and the right, oh, they've got opinions, like you've said this before, we need to reach a consensus. It's like, right, well, hang on a minute, we've believe in democracy to an extent. Trump were elected. To argue against it when it were fact he got elected in kind of suggests that, well, hang on a minute, you're fucking mentally ill of some description. And like I say, on our side, there seems to be less mental illness on our side in this regard. Because it's like I say, I mean, how to get the words for it? Like example, whenever have we seen a rally or something break upon fracture lines, the more she'll have is peer ostracisation. They might say, we don't want that person here. Let's say if you turn up to an EDL rally with a swastika, they might say, sorry man, optics are bad, go away. But whenever we ever had like, the nationalists are falling out with the fucking Free Tommy crowd and the Trump people are disavowing this. No, we're all on the same page.
I do want to be very clear, though. Trump did not win democratically. He won representationally, and that's a very big difference. And you had this when he won the election. You had all these people freaking out about he didn't win the popular vote. More people voted for Hillary than Trump. And thank God, right? Like, no, it's not a numbers game. It's representation over the territory of the United States. Each, smaller political subject like a state or a county has a say, and it's not just a bunch
it's the
of
same system. What I'm saying is, though, it's the same system that got Obama elected. Okay. Get my logic behind it. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Now, it's not exactly democracy.
So I have a bit of autism. So I was just
Oh yeah, that's good because
I don't believe in democracy, right? Like a representational republic or a representational like monarchy or whatever is a way better system than like how many people, the total number, like the popular vote. I think that's a terrible way it's just tyranny.
Well, yeah, it's mob mentality. And it's two wolves and a sheep arguing over breakfast, isn't it? But
yeah,
I mean. How would you call it now? The same system that got Obama elected and the same system that if Hillary would have won, because if Hillary would have won, they wouldn't have turned around and said, we need to reform the Electoral College. They'd have been very content with that one. It's like these filibustering rules and stuff, how it seemed to be very fucking convenient for the left, and now they're like, ooh, this is bad. What? Because like you brought a rule in and now you ruin it. What I'm saying, it's like the consistency bit when the left says, when they go low, we go high. And they're openly disavowing that now. There's a woman on a YouTube video who says, like, sorry, Michelle, sorry, sweetie, that's not the way we're doing it now. And it's like, right, so you've literally got the push and pull of the left. It even says this in the Bible, a house divided can't stand. And if we're correct on this, that a lot of what we're seeing is fucking really bad, and it's not just leftism, it's like spiritual corruption going on, then it wouldn't surprise me if it is a house of Satan, it would all collapse on itself. So keep all this in focus, audience. If you're thinking like, are we going to win this one? Yes, because the enemy cannot fucking unite on a single issue. Yet we can. Diverse crowds love Trump. They love the Free Tommy stuff. They're not all on the same page and everything, but there's enough of a fucking commonality that we'll all go there together and stand rather than hang apart. Do we get autistic and go, that person's not calling out this? Or that person's optics cooking? No. We all turn up. Again, every person who turns up to one of these rallies and stuff, because I was talking to someone there, they'd travelled all the way farther than me, all the way from Scotland. I said, like, why did you do it? And they said, well, if we didn't turn up, then that's two less bodies here, because him and his wife had spent all day travelling to London. So it's every one of you turns up, and again, you might catch that, like we did with our Sadiq Khan balloon thing. We caught some critical footage, and it always pays to just keep the camera rolling. You know what I mean? Don't think, is it relevant or not? I mean, obviously don't just sit there looking at a fucking wheelie bin or something. Or just stood there looking at a statue. But if there's like, there's a crowd about, there's police about, chances are something's going to happen. Or at least you might even catch it. Just checking something out now. Yeah, anything further to bring up? Or have we...
I just wanted to interject on the, when they go low, we go high. This has kind of been the strategy before Trump with... Republicans, and I think it's a larger problem with sort of the conservative parties in a lot of Western countries, which are this like appeal to the system and like playing by the rules and stuff. And that makes sense because that's the kind of personality that you're going to more or less have when dealing with conservatives. They tend to kind of have that disposition. But the problem I see with it is that it's kind of it lacks context. It makes sense to do that when the disagreement is purely just a small ideological difference, and fundamentally you can have compromises to get what you most want, and you have stuff to give and offer each other like a trade in the market. But when you have, rabid sort of leftists that are completely ideological, like extremists, and don't want to offer us any concessions, don't want to offer us any compromise, then doing so is just setting yourself up to be a loser. You're going into the boxing ring where your opponent is going to use an assault rifle, and you got to play by the rules with your boxing gloves on. And that's why we've lost so much ground, as well as we haven't been able to counter their lies effectively.
It's a shame because, the Hillary Clinton thing proved it. The media were on her side and they still lost. It's like the amount of resources. God, Saudi Arabian monarchs and like Middle Eastern people give Hillary Clinton untold sums of money just on the basis that, oh yeah, she might win. And she never even did. And it's hilarious, like say, even us at our disadvantage, with our foibles, so to speak, because we're not all on the same page and everything, but there's enough common ground with all of us, like say, the pro-Trump movement, which in itself you might think, oh, this is just normie mainstream rubbish. It's so important for any person out there who is normie, if you can get out there to us, even if it's not like, we're not expecting you to get involved in football, fucking riot, free Tommy stuff. No. If you're a normie American, go to a pro-Trump rally. Every number counts. Getting people's faces and saying, "Oh, he's my president." They would have thrown it in our faces. It's like I said with Brexit. If we would have lost that referendum, I'd have made it my business to make sure that fucking get the best fucking deal with Europe then at that point. All right, we're in forever now. How do we make sure our voice is heard? I'd have been trying to advocate for that, but no, people who fucking lose. So the people who lose elections, people who lose referendums, act like they're still in charge. Like, well, you might have all won by the numbers or the representation system, but our views are really superior to yours. Do any of you people out there remember the footage of the Young Turks when they were broadcasting? Where Hank's literally like, my God, every demographic voted for Trump, apart from college-educated women, and even then the numbers were small. And yet you've got this situation whereby every fucking demographic is against the media, the narrative, and the talking heads. And this is the pure thing about it. If you're going to let the media... This is why I go to Tommy rallies. This is why Americans should go to pro-Trump rallies. Because you don't want them to believe that nobody turned up. The day that I go to a Tommy rally and it's just me stood there, I'm thinking, shit, we all fell for it then. And likewise, like you say, if you're in America and you're thinking, well, is it worth me driving an hour going to a Trump rally? Yes, it is. Because you even went to one, didn't you? Just to show your face. To a pro-Trump rally, didn't you? I think it was on
Donald Trump has no problem selling out stadiums with people coming to see him. So, he has no problem drawing crowds.
Yeah, because you even said, how many people were there at your little rally that you went to? Well, not little rally.
I'm not sure, but it was
in the thousands. Like, it weren't just a couple of people.
Yeah, it was definitely in the thousands. Probably I don't know. I'm bad with that thing. Maybe 10,000. 20,000.
Yeah, the way you estimate crowds is you have to work out well. We'll go through it later on the how to estimate crowds thing, but it's so people do it on journalists.
It filled up like a sports arena, if that makes it, like a basketball sports arena.
Yeah, but this is the point, though, audience. Like I said, Trump on his own, without an instrument, is able to fill sports stadiums. Like I say, Tommy Robinson, he's not even there, and yet we all turn up because he's in prison and stuff. And again, the days that we all sit there and think, is it worth it? Is it worth it? It's the day that it's not worth it. Because if I go to a rally and there's just me there, then fucking we might as well give up. But every time we've been, other people even said this. They said it's more important to even attend so example, the big one with the 9th. They even said the one that you should really be focusing for is the last protest. Because if you've been able to show up to the first one and go home, well, guess what? You just added to the crowd. But if you're able to go to every single protest and keep that momentum up, then, like I say, at least it's one person the media can't convince that there weren't big crowds. Because if I hadn't gone myself, I might have fell for the lie. I might have believed that, oh my God, people are slapping police horses for no reason. Oh, there's only a couple of hundred. Oh God, it's all falling apart. Go for yourself, audience. Check these things out with your own eyes. It's not that big of a deal. You know, I mean, in London, for instance, people walking around with Free Tommy attire on without, you know, worrying about the consequences. I mean, I might even do that next time, get a Free Tommy t-shirt and just see what response I get. And people have even, I think Ezra mentioned this on one of his things. He says, look, it's not anecdotal, but because I've been in black taxis, cabs too. And they do tend to tell you things because it's not like being recorded. And these people tend to open up to you and say, like, yeah, we all support Tommy. They're not cooking out to you just because you're paying them a fare. These guys will give you an honest opinion. That's always the best thing to do in London. Go in a taxi, ask them about things. I were on a Brexit protest and I were asking him about it. All taxi drivers I met supported Brexit. It was quite strange because the media had been believed they wouldn't. Yeah. What's Franklin said now? I was at the rally where Trump said the helicopter ride comment. Yeah, Franklin, send me in because we're friends on Facebook. So send me a video of that because I want to get that as a sound drop on my little soundboard I've got. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry, audience, about today's show about the lackluster fucking start and everything. What it was is I had major updates. All my settings had been changed. Normally, you know me, audience, religiously. 1 minute after Ezra's finished, I click play. We roll for a fucking 2 hours. This week, we had audio problems and it really pissed me off because I thought, God, I bet Dave's watching and everything. Ah! And we're late. So, basically, yeah, that's why you've only got off us at the moment, around 50 minutes. Would we like to do some out... I'll tell you what, before we end, one final point I want to make. What's going to happen when Tommy is released? Because no one's thinking about that, are they? They're all thinking, oh, he's not been freed yet. Right, well, let's be optimistic. Ezra says he's coming out. Because it run rings round him. He got wrongfully arrested. It's not rocket science. So Tommy's coming out. But what does he face when he gets out? This is probably quite crucial, actually. I should have mentioned this earlier. So let's call it up. The person we're going off now is none other than Jada Franson, because this is what happened in her little case. She was told... Now, remember, Jada Franson's not even as popular as Tommy Robinson. She's not as mainstream as him. But what has she been told? To reside in a... So this is what now I'm reading out is potentially what Tommy could face. So keep this in mind, audience. This is why it's more important once he gets out. Let him be under these restrictions, but we can say things for him. You know, if we all go out there fucking telling what his message, then the government thinks they're going to win this. They think they're going to release him early and put him under what I'm going to read you out now, thinking this is going to be a win. It's not, because I know the truth. Other people do. Tommy can be under these restrictions. He can't, unless he personally tells me to stop doing it, or the group tells me this is bad, then we're going to carry on saying his message prior. So anyway, this is what Tommy faces. To reside in a probation hostel while being closely monitored. Don't like that. You know, every minute you have to be under lock and key. To be in the hostel between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. To be in the hostel between 4 p.m. and 5. To be in the hostel between 9 and 6. So literally, Jada Franson, and this is what Tommy's problems will be, will have no time to even go out and see his family, trying to get gainful employment, do anything. Because he won't be allowed to even make shekels. This is why it'll be important, audience, to give Tommy money once he gets out, because he won't have any shekels from his normal income stream. To not use the internet in any way. Well, that's Tommy's occupation gone for a shit, hasn't it? In cases... Now, with Jada, this is interesting because she's the deputy leader and her husband's the leader. She can't even talk to her own husband. In Tommy's case, it's fortunate. I don't think his wife is actually directly involved in the affairs of his journalism, so to speak. Be interesting if they do anything like that. Like, you can't talk to your wife, let her tell the world. This is what Jada faces, and this is what Tommy will face, to not engage in any political activities. Not to contact or associate from anyone in, well, it says Britain First here, but it will be in Tommy's case, you know, put in your description. To surrender the passport to the police, in case Tommy gets any bright ideas of going somewhere, like to go and live with Geert Wilders. Because that's a possibility. Geert Wilders could say, yep, you come to Holland, come and live with me. Say what you want. Take his passport off him, stops that shit. To provide details of phone and cars to the police and not to speak to the media. So, now, qualify media in Tommy's case. Does that mean Callum, Kit, whatever he's called, you know, that producer, that lad from Britain, Is that who we're on about? So it kind of makes you think, when Tommy does get released, the battle's only half won. He's going to be under silence for 6 months after this. And as we've said previously on other live streams, Tommy has a lot to discuss, such as exposing... well, there's a lot to discuss. I mean, we've discussed this in previous live streams, the testimony of John Wedger, where he were talking about how magistrates were using canal boats as paedophile knocking shops, knowing that, like, well, if you're a registered sex offender, you can move about the canal networks. About how, like, the police were genuinely intimidating other police in order to make sure this corruption weren't known. This is what Tommy was going to give up. This is why he got arrested. Not because of the contempt of court, I think. I think they were finding any excuse in the book to stop him from giving a platform to the likes of John Wedger. And if anybody's interested, type in audience after the show, John Wedger, whistleblower on YouTube. You'll see a full 50-minute video where he goes into graphic detail of what he had to expose and cover up, and he weren't prepared to do it, and broke ranks. And now he's actually been through probably worse than what Tommy's been through, because he's done long stints in jail for this. He's had still got media blackouts on him. See, this is the thing. Tommy's not the complete focus. It's what the information he was going to disclose. This thing, worst case scenario, Tommy could fucking die, and he could end up being a martyr for this. But it still doesn't mean that fucking we can't. No, double up our efforts. Tell them what he was talking about. You know, shout it from the fucking roof if you have to, audience. So anyway, that's my final conclusion in this. Basically, their battle's half won. Once Tommy's out, the battle's just beginning. He's going to have no income stream. He's going to be denied from talking to the media for 6 months. He might have, you know. Well, it says he can't use the internet. He won't even get new updates. So it's not like he can leak new info to us. But like I said, as long as we're still live and kicking, we'll leak what we can. And give you what information from back channels we can and things like that. Right, yeah, that's my show in conclusion. Redneck Napster... Let me just check the Discord. Oh, he's gone now, yeah, bollocks. Yeah, that was Redneck Schmooley. That was a guy we make music videos with and other things with. Let's just check the chat. Yeah, so we've had Franklin Romanowski, Ben SK, and Joey Aloney who's joined us tonight. Yes, normally it's a bit more packed than this, but because of my technical issues, we're kind of running a bit late. So, audience, this has been roughly an hour of the Ezra's First Irregulars, your final solution to censorship. I am your humble citizen journalist, Rick Turpin, that can be found at RickTurpin33 on the Twitters and at Knights of the Round on Gab, all underscored. So you can find us there. If you'd like to know, if you want me to, I'm not saying work for Rebel Media, but Dave, Ezra, if you're out there, I'll just give you my contact details. Call me. Anyway, on that note, we'll play you out with some patriotic British music, and then we'll call it a fucking day. So here we go. Stay safe, audience, and remember, like I said, just turn up whenever you can. Just get out there, add your body, your voice to the crowd. On that note, rule Britannia, and stay safe. The charter of the land. Guardian angels sang this strain. Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves. Yes, thank you for joining us. Join us next week and click that Discord link where you can become part of the show. Stay safe, audience.